How can you allow children to be murdered and women to be murdered? How can you allow troops to fire depleted uranium knowing that they're going to get canceled? How can you also then allow that depleted uranium to be left so that it destroys the land in Iraq and Afghanistan, so that you leave the hulls of tanks that you blew up with it and then the children are deformed? How could you rightfully do such atrocities and then claim that we're in the right? How could we be in the right? This is not a defensive war, people. We are in their homeland. We've been in their homeland. For 60 years we've been in the Muslim world, tearing it apart, pulling coup d'etats, putting in presidents and dictators alike that we'd like to work with, or whatever serves our purpose at that time. We created Al-Qaeda and now we claim to be warring with them. We're working with Al-Qaeda in Libya and Syria, but they're our enemies. And then I get called crazy for 9/11. I'm not going to get into 9/11. You guys should be doing your own research on that, and it's so simple. Every single movie that I've ever made is about the same thing. It's about a different topic, but it all culminates with the same thing. There is a group of men, what I've been trying to explain, and they control this nation. They control Great Britain, and they have controlled this nation at least since 1913, when they established the central bank of the Federal Reserve. And I have covered this numerous times, and I've said this repeatedly, and it's so obvious, people. I'm not even going to get into it. It's ridiculous. We've lost far too many lives over a war that we're not even doing what we claimed to do. If we were really there to kill Osama bin Laden's supposedly dead, and he's probably been dead for some time. Nonetheless, Osama bin Laden's a CIA shit. He was a CIA asset by the name of Tim Osman. We all know this. This is not classified information. It's not like I was in the know or that I know a CIA agent. This is for everybody to see, thanks to the Freedom of Information Act. You can see the enhanced interrogation techniques. You could go on the internet and read the 50 different memorandums so that you could get a real broad outlook. I could make a movie where I could show every memorandum. You find some real horrible things, like how they tortured Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's children right in front of them. That's the United States. That's what the good guys do, folks. We rape, murder, destroy the land, install frickin' dictators, install drug dealers as the president of Afghanistan, grow the opium, while we make it illegal in this country so that it's worth it. It's all a joke, a big joke. And it's really sad to watch this happen to this country that was once great, that was founded upon ideals, that should have stopped this, that has a constitution, that if we followed it, this never could have occurred. And if we just go back to the Constitution, we could stop these men in their tracks, right now, today, in 10 seconds. But nobody wants to do anything. And everybody just wants to call me crazy. And I'm going to laugh, because I'm sure I'm going to get a message in my inbox that says, "Where's my tin hat?" Or call me a conspiracy theorist, or blah, blah, blah. And what it is that you're scared, buddy. Straight up. It's that you're scared. And I'm sorry to have to be the one to point this out to you. But you know it's true, because it's so blatantly obvious, and you're just terrified. You're terrified of what might happen to you, or what might happen to your family. What you should be thinking about is what is going to happen to you, and what is going to happen to your family when this goes down. I don't care how scared you are. That's ridiculous. We have the power, damn it. We outnumber them millions to one. We need our soldiers to come home, and we need them to stop being demoralized and destroyed morally. And freaking, we have to stop sending them through 50 tours and having them murder women and children because it's destroying the fabric of their being. And they're going to come back here and possibly get orders to raid our houses for whatever. Because the National Defense Authorization Act makes it very clear that the terrorists are domestic. That's who they're looking for. They are looking for domestic terrorists. And we all know that there's not Al-Qaeda in this country. The CIA didn't put Al-Qaeda in this country because they don't need to put Al-Qaeda in this country. Because ultimately the enemy was always you and me. Even if you never said anything, you were always the enemy. You have thwarted these people's plans for at least 100 years because you were on. And they're pissed about it. They've tried to take your guns for at least 100 years. And they have unsuccessfully done it. And the gun purchase rates have gone up exponentially since Obama has been in office. And that's probably partly because of Obama and partly because people are waking up. And these men are scared. And they are rightfully so scared. They should be scared. You should not be scared. You should feel empowered. We have to stop these people. We have to stay peaceful, but we have to be active. We don't beat these men by attacking them. We beat them by standing up and saying no. And they can't do it. They can't do it with any amount of force because there's too much of us. And as long as we don't let them take our brother, our neighbor, they can't take us because our brother and our neighbor will have our back. We all have to stand up for one another. We have to speak out for what's right. That's what we're here for.
We're trying to salvage our Constitution and salvage our liberties. Obviously, too often our foreign policy of the last 30 or 40 years has backfired on us. We get involved, we spend a lot of money, lose a lot of lives, and there are no victories. And then the financial consequences are severe. There's been a $4 trillion increase in our national debt due to the wars we're fighting in the Middle East. Nobody gave proper authority to go there. Nobody knows exactly why we're there. Nobody knows when it's going to be over. They claim it's over in Iraq. I think it's only beginning, unfortunately, and it's just more turmoil. And the sooner we understand that not minding our own business is a much better way to get along with people than dropping bombs on them. But, another important point in our platform is that of personal liberties. And I am convinced that if you understand personal liberty, if you understand individual liberty, if you understand where liberty comes from, it comes to us in a natural way. It comes to us in a God-given way. If you understand that, you know that you should also have the right to keep the fruits of all your labors. But it is this careless attitude about individual liberty that has really been undermining whether it's our foreign policy or our economic policy. We, as a country, 100 years ago or so, for some reason, we chopped freedom into pieces, and some people defended personal liberties a little bit better than others. Others defended economic liberty. But if you understand individual liberty, personal liberty and economic liberty are one in the same. When people are frightened, sometimes they overdo things. And I think a lot of that happened after 9/11. By not understanding the full impact and what was going on after 9/11, tragically it was used as an opportunity for those who had a bill floating around for a decade, and they saw this as an opportunity. And it was a bill that it was misnamed, obviously. It was called the Patriot Act. It should have never been passed, and it ought to be repealed. It was obviously well intended, but taking away our freedoms is not a good result of what they were trying to do. Franklin warned us about giving up liberty for security. And I have come to the firm conviction that we as Americans should never give up any liberty on the pretense that we're going to have more security. I'm convinced if the Patriot Act had been named something like repeal the Fourth Amendment, it might have had more trouble getting passed. But I was sitting beside another congressman when we were passing that bill, and we only had an hour or two to look at that final version. And he was voting for it, and guess what? I was voting against it. And I said to him, why are you voting for this? I said, have you read it? No. I said, there's a lot of bad stuff in here. He says, I know. I said, well, why are you voting for it? He says, well, how can I go back to my district? After 9/11, the people want us to do something. I can't go back and explain it to them. I said, but that is your job, to go back home and explain it to them. But the Patriot Act is going, if it's not changed or repealed, it's going to be a real burden to us because it's a real attack on our privacy. And now they're planning more. They're planning the whole idea of controlling the Internet. They're saying they're going to control piracy on the Internet. But what they're going to do is control your freedom and your privacy. We have the government turned upside down. The government becomes more secretive. At the same time, your privacy is being undermined. The Constitution was meant to protect your liberties, your privacy, and the government was to be open. Approximately a year ago, a member of the Obama administration came to a Senate committee and announced that policies had been changed. He said now that they are changing this, and it's up front. They were putting it out on the table. That's what really scares me. They've abused the law in the past, but they knew it was wrong, and they hid it. Today, it's too much up front. He said, we are now have an established policy that we can assassinate American citizens. That is bad news. So they practiced it. They did it on 3 times, and they've established this as a precedent. So that is a dictatorship when 1 or 2 people in the whole United States can dictate and decide he's a bad guy, he needs assassinated because we can't try him. No charges, nothing official. So it is especially important that you try the bad guys, because if you don't try the bad guys, it really undermines our liberties. We have done this. Just think after World War II, the Nazi criminals were tried at Nuremberg. Even Adolf Eichmann, when he was captured, he was tried, given a trial, and then properly executed by the Israelis. So why are we getting so afraid of capturing people and arresting them and giving them a proper rights? But no, they've gone one step further. Here, 2 weeks ago, they passed this very, very ornery National Defense Authorization Act. And I'm always very pleased, and I comment on it, because the people who come to our rallies and know about what we stand for knows what's in that bill, and unfortunately the rest of the country better find out what is in that bill. But that bill essentially says that any American citizen now can be arrested. Not by their local police, not by the FBI, not by some other group, but by the military. This is military law. The military can come in and arrest an American citizen and put in prison indefinitely and denied a lawyer. That has to be reversed, or we cannot have a republic anymore. So that should be our goal.